for the 24th episode of Zeta Mining. Episode 24, Rebooting Faded Blog Content, and we're going to be talking about a tool called Tweet Old Post as one method of rebooting some of that faded blog content. I'm here with Warren Whitlock. How are you doing, Warren?
You're looking great there by the lake. I'm in the dry weather here, and I notice my hair is starting to fly up. So hopefully I won't take off.
Yeah.
I can't tell what the top of your head looks like today.
Yeah, I'm a little cut off, but I'm pretty scruffy. I've been in the weeds with a number of projects, and I haven't taken the time to
Good. Well, I'm here.
The last few days.
I'm here sporting my podcast expo T-shirt, and I won't model it, but it's here. There is a large microphone on my chest right now, and we're gearing up to do that. That's in August, and hopefully you'll get an affiliate link put in the YouTube description.
Yeah, sometimes.
We got to invite some friends to come to that. So yeah, I love this idea of pulling out the best of blog content, and don't like the things that are a bot that just goes through and repost everything you ever did, and like some of the fine tuning on this. So tell us about your experience.
So this was a new one to me, but I was working with a client. It's Viv Magazine, and they have a lot of content that's evergreen, meaning it's been published for, in some cases, a few years, in some cases just recently, but it is content that kind of stands the test of time. A lot of recipes, travel tips to different locations, a number of different things of that nature, and they have recently slowed down the number of items that they're posting on a regular basis, and their Twitter account and the activity taking place on that account was slowing down as well. And we wanted to revive that a bit because not everybody has read everything that they've ever published. And we found this tool called Tweet Old Post. Now, it's just a plugin for WordPress. Their site runs on WordPress. And it essentially allows you to do a few things. Now, I'll warn everybody, if you're not careful when you set it up, it can do just what you mentioned earlier and tweet out a whole bunch of things that maybe you don't want to be tweeted out. So don't run out and put this on any WordPress website that you have just because it's possible. This is one of those things where with great power comes great responsibility. But so what it enables you to do, though, is you can choose to include or exclude specific categories, not tags, but categories, and there are ways to convert tags and change that, but you can pick categories that you want to be included in this batch of content that will then be tweeted out, not republished as a blog post, but just sent to Twitter. You can choose to include the title, hashtag of your choice or two. You can turn categories into hashtags. You can include a link to it. You can include the featured image as a Twitter pic, which is powerful if you have good images as well. And then you can set up a schedule on how often that will happen. And you can have it, sent out every few minutes, or you can have it sent out every few hours or every few days, or however often is appropriate to pepper in some of your evergreen content. And we had some interesting success with this. And some of the lessons that I kind of learned were a little counterintuitive, but at a summary level, we increased traffic to the site by close to 20 or 30% initially, and one of the nice surprising things was we really increased the engagement on the Twitter account as well. A lot of retweets, a lot of favorites, and even more importantly, a lot of discussions started popping up on that Twitter account. People actually talking, not just blindly hitting a button. So that was all the positive, but we had a number of lessons learned that I'd like to share at the end. You've used this plugin before yourself, haven't you, Warren? And
I've used this in any variety of other things. Number one being that I can look at my blog and tell something's a good post, either reaction to it or, here's one, I speak. I use a story when I'm speaking, and people will come up and comment, and there'll be discussions afterwards. things like that, and I know it's good. And I think I wrote a blog post on this once. I should be pointing people to it. I go back to
Right.
the blog post, and I find out that it's been, shared 4 times, and where my average is many times that. And I know when I promote something on Twitter, what I do is I write better tweets. New blog post, colon, and a few words out of the title are not going to necessarily. There's sometimes if you have a large following and you're active on Twitter, and then you post new blog posts, then that means something. And then some of those people actually were putting in, the name bloggers. They were putting in things like Flashback Thursday, or once a week, blast from the past, or calling it something like that, and actually making it part of their editorial basis. But I'm more like Guy Kawasaki, who did extensive experiments when he went from all top to holy cow to just getting big enough on his Twitter following that he no longer he no longer hardly interacts on that with
Yep.
all the comments and traffic he gets out of it. And so and watching what he did, and absolutely he proved time and time again that if you do the same post 6 times 6 hours apart, the people interacting with numbers 2 through 6 are going to be different than the first one. I have done that now with stuff I really like, and posted it again and again, where there's probably some I posted 50 to 100 times. Different copy, same URL, sometimes the same but repeated. I never, or never is a long time, but I try not to repeat using the same URL in any kind of time that would be a session that somebody's on Twitter. So odd hours. I don't use 6 hours. I use other time periods to do that. And if I have something I want to promote, we did it with the Zeta Mining Show a couple of weeks ago, and set up that in 24 hours I posted 6 different things. They were all coming up, and there's a new show, and go see it. And we had different interactions from it. I get more people talking to me on Twitter about those things than I get actually clicking and doing something. Or if they click, there's like no record of it, no comments or anything, hardly any traffic I can measure. It's always a surprise that there's a lot more. I'm looking for comments, and there's always a lot more traffic than there are comments.
Right.
So that'll work too. So I'm now thinking this makes sense. If it doesn't, I guess my main suggestion on it, and I talk Twitter because that's me and wrote the book, and Twitter's where I experiment. But same on Facebook, LinkedIn, or whatever. When you're sharing things, make it a unique share, and schedule as many as you need, and think about what that audience cares about. If your Facebook page has, if it's your profile, a lot of people talk about business on their profile. I do, but if I put every blog post on my profile, people would tire of it, and I get hardly any interaction on anything that's business related or trying to link something like that. So I keep Facebook fun on the page and promoting articles. I could take 2-year-old post or a post from this week and go ahead and buy ads and boost it, and it's going to be the same. The post on Facebook has to be new, not the what you're using. So it's silly to think that everybody that was reading, I know the history of Viv magazine, they had completely different subscribers 2 years ago.
Right.
The crossover of people that are still regularly reading are gone. So the people that read their magazine over 7, 8 years that they were putting that magazine out are not the people they were getting on the blog, and not the people that you're reaching now. So it makes sense to recycle and reuse that content, with the caveat of making sure that it's unique in the way that you post it.
Yeah, and you mentioned, a tactic you used last week, and one of the things that stood out about that, we did a Zeta Mining Show, and you came up with, 8 or 9 or a dozen different Twitter messages, but that show, had a title to it, but you didn't just repost the same title over and over again. you came up with Twitter messages that talked about different things that we mentioned throughout the show, because the show covered lots of different topics itself, and so you used each of those topics as a Twitter message to hone people into that particular show, as opposed to repeating the title and link and stuff like that, which I thought was pretty insightful, because you could just give the title, but that, a lot of times even a blog title doesn't it doesn't convey everything that might be covered, and if there's a particular slant or segment of people that might be interested in a part of the show, then that's a good way to key them in. And I think that was something that kind of stood out about the way that you put that together last week. And with
well,
this,
let me comment on that, because
sure.
I do a lot of this and talk to a lot of different people, and it's amazing how often I'll meet somebody in person and be talking to them and tell them I'm really excited, like my Billions Rising project. It was a book. It consumed my life last year. And we had a radio show and a blog going out, and everywhere I'm going, I'm talking to people about self-reliance. And I bring it up all the time with people now, and even at the height of it. And I know we talk daily on Facebook or Twitter, and they'll go like, "Oh, is that what you're doing now?" Or they'll ask, "What are you up to these days?" They've missed it entirely. And so you've got to think in terms of what your audience is doing. Your audience has that, we talked about this a couple of weeks ago, the monkey brain, where you can't get too engaged because you're looking at so much stuff flowing through. So the idea is catching it. That and what you were saying about it, adding hashtags, is great, because a different set of hashtags, and you're talking about something different.
Right. So, with that said, just on this particular tool alone, I've got a quick tip list of things that you can do to set it up and get it running, and kind of maximize your experience with it. I mentioned earlier you need to identify the categories that have the evergreen content in it, and I would say this doesn't have to be a perfect look. You don't have to read through every single blog article in the categories that you've ever written. In the Viv example, we had several thousand articles that ultimately did get included, and a few hundred that did not, just based on categories. But I'm sure, and we'll see in the future, that some of the articles in the categories that we included won't be appropriate. So the next thing is you need to do some additional filtering, and what I started to do was running some keyword searches within WordPress itself, just looking for words like holiday or holidays, Christmas, Thanksgiving, Easter, vacation, those types of words. And anytime those popped up in the search results within WordPress for this site, I read those titles quickly, and usually there was like a half dozen or something, and you could rapidly tell from looking at them if they were on topic or not, or if they might be like a seasonal item that didn't, you don't want to talk about Easter during July necessarily, for example. So you could rapidly exclude individual blog posts, groups at a time, and you might even want to save that list of articles somewhere else so that you could, recycle those when the season comes around. So that was kind of a useful lesson, quickly going and searching. But even if something still slips through the cracks, one of the things that we found is that when these things get posted out there, your following becomes something of a useful way to help crowdsource what is evergreen, because they'll rapidly tell you, hey, that looks crazy, or that's from 2005, whatever you're talking about. And so you have this new golden nugget of opportunity to have a discussion with them, like, oh yeah, thanks for pointing that out, it slipped through the cracks, we're going to remove that. Or, oh yeah, we looked at that article, it was a really good article for the time, and now we've written an update to it, and maybe we go do a rewrite and use that as an opportunity to improve it. Let the people know that you're doing this, and they see that you're responsive and taking their feedback and working to make the site better for not only them but everybody else, and that gets them more engaged as well. And the other thing is to read your own tweets as these flow through. Take a look at them. Are they coming out the way that you like, and so on. Now we are running on a couple thousand posts, and initially we are running them relatively quickly, a couple an hour, to get different time zones, different audiences, and things of that nature. I do anticipate, as we've cycled through these couple thousand articles once, we're going to change the schedule up and slow it down significantly and do some additional things after. So we are going to rinse and repeat in this case, but we're rinsing and repeating knowing that the second run through is going to look different than the first. And on a different site, I've done something similar, and I only mention that because it only had a couple hundred blog articles that we were cycling through, and we're going much slower through that particular list. We're doing one every couple days, kind of changing the time that it goes out, but about every 2.5 days a new one will go out. So take a look at what you've got for content and how it might work, and what schedule might be appropriate for the people that that you're looking to hit. So.
Yeah, and of course you want to use as odd of a number in there as you can. You know, I've used 97 minutes, and you know, and then I look back. Okay, well that's a little bit more than an hour and a half. Maybe it ought to be a little bit less than an hour and a half. 89 minutes or 67 minutes or something like that to try to schedule things out so that each time the chances. I even did this by hand using a spreadsheet one time. And each number was so that every time the tweet ran again, it wasn't anywhere near the same hour of the day. Now, where you're doing 2 an hour and it's the main part of this feed, there's a lot less need for that kind of experiment. Nobody has the illusion that you're writing those tweets in real time.
Right.
They look at the feed, they know, so that's a little bit different. But then the other thing that you haven't mentioned that you'll definitely get to, I'm sure, and you'll report back to us, is the analytics.
Right.
Just like when I've picked a post that was underutilized before, you're going to find the ones that are getting, especially since you're doing the same thing to all of them, you're going to find out which one's getting traffic and engagement and which one's not. You start getting new comments or new shares on a particular article. Well, then that'll be one to focus on. It also gives you ideas of what to do next with the content. If you have 2 articles and one of them's dated in such a way it can't be used, and the other one's getting a lot of shares, you can take this article and just have it rewritten and updated, and you get some more that way. So
yeah, and we're doing a lot of that, and a lot of the rewrites. They're not even, they don't have to be significant. Sometimes it's just changing a few words in the title and the first introduction paragraph, because what I'm finding is a lot of like 95% of the article could be evergreen, but the way that it's introed with the title and the first couple sentences often is not evergreen. So there's some timely mention of something in there, and there's
good content that's getting missed.
Yep.
Because it says new ideas for 2012, and the ideas aren't dated. They just like that headline at the time.
Yep.
It's fantastic, and I think. To close out, I've got to add again, use automation tools to get things done. Don't expect the automation tools to do the thinking for you or the engagement. If you're not engaging with your audience, if you're not listening at the feedback and making sure you're not abusing the trust that you've built up, when people recognize a bot, they're going to be out. And certainly don't use the default text of new blog text : or
right.
And even think about whether or not to include in your title the name of the blog in every title. Personally, I do stuff by hand. When I read the news, when I do anything, if I hit share, I automatically go in and take out any references to come from CNN or a big media outlet like that. They're getting the click when somebody goes and reads it.
Right.
They don't need the ad in my Twitter stream. And I thought, I don't know if it's because of fairness or just common sense, I started looking at them going like, well, that's going to be a problem when people retweet what I say. And so I've taken out all references to where it comes from in Twitter. A little bit different on some other sites. And of course, you get into this, you start checking on everything. If you're posting to a Facebook page and every post has the same exact logo on it, then go in and get that fixed.
Right.
Automation is wonderful. This is as long as you don't try to automate the human part.
Right. Yep. No. Do be prepared to talk and do something useful with it after it sparks the conversation.
Yeah, that's why we're doing this. If you don't get any conversations or interaction or your call to action never gets clicked on, then there's really no reason to do all of this. You're just flooding the internet with more spamish type things. So be real, be human, and then use these tools to help you. So you're not sitting around going like, where did I put that URL because I got a tweet about it.
Yeah.
That's what
Exactly.
automation was made for. It's the helper behind the scenes.
There you go. Well, I think that brings us up to the end of another episode. If
Another one in the can.
Another one in the
Fantastic.
can. If you've enjoyed this, please consider subscribing to us at youtube.com/zmining, and you can follow Warren Whitlock at Warren Whitlock and myself at Brett Bum on Twitter, or connect with us there. If you've got comments, leave them below.
Yeah, do this. Yeah, we got to go down below. And of course, I'm also pointing at my new shirt here, so you want me to post a photo, let me know, and I will. Or
right.
if you want me to not post a photo, you better share this and tell me not to post a photo.
That's right. We'll both be attending the podcast movement in the Dallas area this August. So if you happen to be going to that show, we'd love to connect with you and talk more. So thanks, Warren. I'll see you, and we'll see everyone else next week.